the best workout regimen for you, your current goals, and your lifestyle is so crucial to maintain your muscle mass after weight loss. Because we don't just lose fat when we lose weight, we also lose muscle. So in this video, I'm going to share my current exercise strategy around weight loss maintenance and how that differs from the routine I used to lose the weight in the first place. So I wanted to provide a little backstory for kind of my exercise evolution and where I started with my weight loss. So basically, I was at the heaviest I've ever been, like 154 pounds. It was right when I found out I was pregnant. So I'm not sure how much of that was due to the pregnancy and how much of that was due to just my unhealthy lifestyle. I was eating a lot of fatty foods like chips and salsa. Like obviously the salsa is great, but the chips, not so much. As well as tons of nuts and seeds. I would eat an entire bag of whatever you handed me. But also prior to getting pregnant, I was drinking more alcohol, and that is complete empty calories in and of itself. I was trying to do vegan, I was trying to do whole food plant-based, I was transitioning, I was really confused about what I was supposed to be eating based on the information I was reading and watching on YouTube and reading in books and reading online. And all of the information I was getting was very conflicting. So trying to figure out what the heck I was supposed to be eating to not just lose weight, but to be healthy. So fast forward to the present. I have maintained my weight loss of well over 30 pounds for over the past 3 years. I was at the 154 and at my lowest I got down to a 115. But now that I've stopped breastfeeding since January, I am now at a steady 117. So I am very impressed with the ability of this plant-based diet, but also having a regular exercise routine is so crucial, as I mentioned in the beginning, to maintain your muscle mass. Muscle burns a lot more calories than fat does. Exercise has always been a huge part of my life, regardless of what was going on or what my goals were. Over the past 20 years, I have developed what I would like to call a very balanced, well-managed program that has helped me maintain this weight loss, but also my mental well-being and my ability to carry myself through the day in the best version of myself and take life stressors as they come without getting overly dramatic or exhausted by any of them. You just kind of take things in stride. I think exercise helps with all of those things, and that's why it's so important for a weight loss maintenance regimen or weight loss in general. So in this video, I'm going to focus on the 3 major areas of exercise that I have learned through many years of researching and trial and error, trying to figure out the best workout routine for myself, my body, my goals, my lifestyle. First and foremost being cardio or cardiovascular endurance. So this is anything from running and hiking and biking and step class and anything that gets your heart rate up. Anything that gets you to a point where you can still carry out a conversation, but you get short of breath from time to time. Or you can carry out a more vigorous cardio exercise and have a lot of shortness of breath, particularly with high intensity interval training. That's one of my favorites for the more vigorous side of things. Currently, I pulled a glute muscle and a little bit of a tear in my hamstring, so I haven't been doing a lot of my favorites, and obviously those are a little hardcore. So that's how I got injured in the first place. Something I have focused on for years are calisthenics, just using your own body weight to perform exercise. So some of my favorites are things like push-ups and squats and sit-ups and jumping jacks and high knees and butt kickers, all of these different things that help to get your heart rate up, but also they do a wonderful job of maintaining your muscle mass. And the best part is you don't have to do a ton of them in order to see benefits. So I would do these for about 30 minutes a day, 2 to 3 times per week, depending on how I was feeling in my body. Prior to about my 4th month of pregnancy, I was a runner and I would run about a 5K every day. And regardless of the degree of injury I was experiencing, I would wrap my ankles when I had sore ankles or when I had sprained them or had shin splints, and I would just keep on running. I would pull a hamstring muscle from kickboxing and just keep on running. So I no longer am able to run, obviously, because I was not very smart about my exercise. Please don't make that mistake because you will regret it probably for the rest of your life. It is what it is, and I just have to live with it. And I've come to terms with that. I went through the grieving process of no longer being a runner. That breaks my heart, but there are so many other exercises you can do. That is what I feel is the most important message in this video, is to try different things, see what you truly enjoy. You should get to a point where you look forward to exercise and you don't think of it as a chore. There is rock climbing and hiking and biking and so many different things, dancing that you can enjoy that don't necessarily fall into the category of what would be typical for exercise. It doesn't have to be going to the gym and clocking in on the treadmill. It's not that prescriptive. This varies from person to person, and what works well for one person is certainly not going to work well for everybody. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up if you found that last tip helpful. Explore. Use this opportunity to explore the possibilities and discover what works best for you. So some of my other favorites I already alluded to. Biking. I used to bike for hours a few times a week. It was just my favorite go-to to just get out of the city, go see some of nature and get some sunshine and just be alone, away from everything, away from all your problems, and just like listen to my music or my podcast. But now I take my daughter with me on my bike rides, so I definitely don't go as far and I don't go as fast. Another favorite I was into for a long time pre-pandemic was group fitness classes. So dance classes and cycling and just hard calisthenic workouts were always my go-to, and I found that the group aspect made things so much more fun and worthwhile, and the time would fly by and you wouldn't even pay attention to what was going on or how much you were sweating, and you had that competitive component. So the harder the person next to you was working, you wanted to work that much harder to outdo them. So you definitely lost way more calories than you would have if you were working out, say at home or something by yourself. My current favorite is hiking and walking because, like I mentioned, I injured myself in the gym recently doing some deadlifts, I believe. So my glute and my hamstring on my right side are just as screwed up as my hip now. So now I'm trying to incorporate more walking into my daily regimen. And that's how I really lost the weight in the first place. Lots and lots and lots of walking, because it was right after I had my daughter and that's all we could really do. So studies show that approximately 45 to an hour worth of walking is where you meet that sweet spot of fat burning. So you are losing the most amount of fat when you get to that area in your walk. So try to walk at least 45 minutes. Anything beyond that is complete fat loss, as long as you're in that fasting stage. So in the mornings, I'll always go for a very long walk, like this morning, and get plenty of fresh air and sunshine and all those wonderful things that come with being in nature and getting some cardiovascular activity. But I also want to touch on hiking because this has become my family's favorite go-to when it comes to spending time together. It is gorgeous outside right now. It's finally summer, and the winter time is going to be here before we know it. Maybe we'll still hike then. I'm not sure. This is kind of a new progression, but that has been utterly instrumental in our well-being lately. We just find that it makes us so calm, and it kind of brings everything back to its equilibrium. When you feel kind of inadequate or out of balance, you just go out in nature and go for a hike and come back, and all of a sudden everything's resolved. You see life in a completely new perspective, and you're just at ease with whatever it is that's going on in your life, and you can take life stressors a lot more gracefully than you would have prior. I also feel this is a wonderful way to teach my daughter the importance of exercise by taking her on these hikes with us. So it's been quite a wonderful experience so far. And it's great to explore and see different places. And there's so much out there in your own neighborhood that you might not even realize if you just look up the trails and the hiking areas in your locale. You'll be quite surprised of the beautiful landscape that is currently around you. The next major area I want to talk about is strength training. I don't know if I could pick a favorite, but it just might be strength training. So I was always impressed by people that kind of had a knack for this, or it just seemed like they knew what they were doing in the gym. I used to walk in the gym and just do any exercise, any machine that looked appealing at the time. Like I had no plan, no intention going into my workout, just kind of what seemed like fun at the time. I had no idea what muscle groups I was working or which ones I should have been working or targeting at a specific time, which ones I should lay off of. And now that I have educated myself and I was an instructor for several years on kickboxing and strength training, now I finally understand how to build a proper program and set that into place with my weight loss clients. So it's so important, like I mentioned in the beginning, to maintain that muscle mass when you are losing weight, to make sure that you're not losing excess muscle when you really don't need to be. So the major objective when it comes to strength training is making sure that you incorporate all of those 8 major muscle groups: your shoulders, your biceps, your triceps, your upper and lower back, your chest, your glutes, your hamstrings, and your quadriceps. These are considered the major muscle groups. Obviously, there are other things: your forearms, your calves, your adductors and abductors, your abs. There are so many other different muscles, but these are considered the 8 core muscle groups that you need to be working, because those other muscle groups tend to be inadvertently worked through the exercises that you would originally do for those 8 major muscle groups. I hope that makes sense. So basically, I like to split my workouts between upper and lower. It's just so much easier for me to remember what the heck I did the previous time I was at the gym or working out at home with my free weights if I split up the upper and lower. Otherwise, it gets a little confusing. There's enough things to remember in my day without remembering which muscle groups I worked. So, upper body, like I mentioned, the shoulders, the bis, the tris, the upper and lower back, as well as the chest. So those are the muscle groups you want to incorporate when you do split that upper and lower body. Those are within that category of 8 major muscle groups. So some of my favorites when it comes to upper body are push-ups or chest press, or you can do some shoulder press or lateral raises. There are tricep kickbacks. So many wonderful exercises you can do right in your own home if you don't have access to a gym. I would highly recommend getting some of your own free weights. We have 10s, 15s, and 20s currently, but definitely get some more in between and maybe a little higher and a little lower at the same time, because you want a good variety. But also, if you're just getting started, don't go crazy about having like 30 options. Just get the basics and maybe start with a 5 pound and a 10 pound and go from there. But some other things that I find to be really helpful for a home gym are a exercise ball. So I use this as a bench when I'm doing like chest presses or when I do those lower back raises, but also for ab work, it's really helpful. My boyfriend also uses a pull-up bar, but honestly, I don't use that thing except to stretch because I'm just not there yet. I do, what are they called? Assisted pull-ups at the gym, and I try my best not to use, more assistance than I need, but I am not to a point yet where I'm doing my own pull-ups on a regular basis. That's not a thing. If you find yourself struggling with this transition or losing those excess pounds, make sure you click my link in the description box below and schedule a free 45-minute consultation with me so we can get started on your health journey. A major tip I wanted to share in this video was the use of a Theragun or some kind of power massager. We also have a Hypervolt, but this is by far my favorite. I know these are pricey, but imagine the cost of its equivalent in massages, like personal private massages. This one, I can't remember if this one was $750 or $900, but that's like what, 9 massages or less in an entire year potentially. But this you can use whenever you want by yourself, and you only pay once. But it is wonderful. It has different settings. You can adjust the arm so it's facing all the way around. This thing is so crucial for a strength training regimen because when your muscles are sore, it is very difficult to carry out normal life activities. So maybe 20 minutes after a workout, I use that thing, and it makes such a big difference, not only in the soreness factor, the reduction in soreness, but also the improvements and ability to speed up recovery. The third component that you should include with any well-rounded exercise program is stretching. Now, pre-workout, you want to incorporate dynamic stretches. So stretches where you're actually in motion while you're stretching. So things like hip swings, arm swings, trunk rotation, all of those different wonderful stretches that help you maintain range of motion and functionality, but also they reduce your likelihood of getting injured. I know it may not sound like it because I have experienced so much injury, but it really does make a difference. I probably would be much worse off if I had not exercised as much as I did. And the day that I actually pulled these muscles that I'm currently healing from, I did not do a ton of dynamic stretches pre-workout. I know you probably hear it all the time, but it truly does make a difference in your workout and your likelihood of getting injured or re-injured in my case. So pre-workout, dynamic stretches, post-workout, you can do more static stretches. So these are just where you're stationary, you hold a pose for a certain amount of time. For anybody who watches the Andrew Huberman podcast, he recently did an episode on stretching and explained that approximately 30 seconds is the goal. Like, it doesn't really matter if you hold it longer than 30 seconds, but you definitely want to reach that threshold of 30 seconds to get the most benefit out of your stretching regimen. So I have followed this for many years. This is actually what I was taught in a stretching course I took in college, but also just the different research I've done throughout the years. It's consistently come up 30 seconds, 30 seconds. So through my education and through my own personal research, it's been something that I just always keep in mind when I'm stretching. I just count to 30. And it's actually super meditative to just kind of breathe, count, and feel how wonderful your body feels after you exercise and stretch those muscles. I was actually a gymnast for the majority of my youth, so exploring yoga has been utterly wonderful for me and my body. So learning how to maintain that range of motion through these wonderful, beautiful, intentional poses and use my own body to get into these arm balances and these different poses that maintain my muscle mass and yet challenge me and stretch me at the same time. So like chin stands and crow poses and all of those difficult, challenging things that you see people doing in a yoga class that you're too afraid to try those, because you'll be so surprised at your ability to do them. Handstands, and they're so much fun. But not only that, the importance of that connectivity from what your muscles are doing and how your brain is coordinating everything, it's so important to keep you youthful and functional as you age. So balance, coordination, and maintaining that range of motion, stretching does all of these wonderful things, reducing your likelihood of being injured, many different benefits. Do not underappreciate or underemphasize the importance of including some stretching in your usual workout routine. The last part of this video, I'm going to focus on exactly what I do on a weekly basis to maintain my 30+ pound weight loss. To be perfectly transparent, this has not changed much since I lost the weight in the first place. I think the key is just finding something regular, day in and day out, week after week, month after month, year after year, that works for you. And it doesn't have to be the same thing. It just has to be something, right? And it's important to try to hit all of these three major areas that I've spoken about. So the cardio, the strength training, and the stretching. So this is my weekly routine. Monday through Wednesday, I typically do my cardio. So this used to be a lot of calisthenics and then some stretching afterwards. But since I have been dealing with these injuries, I have been resorting to walks and hiking. So that typically looks like about an hour every morning of a nice long walk. I love to exercise first thing in the morning. It's always been my favorite time. And now that I work at home, I finally get to do that. But also that's the point in time when you are able to lose the most fat because you are in a fasting state if you haven't eaten breakfast prior to going. So always try to maintain that about 6 to 8 hours since your last meal would be considered fasting for exercise. But I just like to make sure that there's plenty of room in between my last meal and exercise, not only for the fat loss benefits, but the way I feel in my body. It's so much easier for me to carry myself and do the movements if I don't have a bunch of food sitting in my stomach. So exercise before breakfast. And again, when you're walking, it's important to do at least 45 minutes or more to get that real heavy fat burn. And even with walking, I follow it up with plenty of stretching, 15 to 25 minutes each time. I just can't emphasize enough the importance of maintaining some regular stretching. Even if it's just 5 minutes after a workout, just do something. Your body will thank you for it. Because within days, we lose those benefits that we create in the first place. So you have to keep up with it no matter what kind of exercise it is in order to maintain the benefits. So Thursday, I consistently do my lower body strength training at the gym. Is my favorite place to do it, but when I don't have time, because it is like a half an hour away from my home, then I do my similar routine, but with my free weights at home. So I don't get the benefit of using the gym's workout machines. Friday, I'm usually beat from my lower body strength training, so I focus strictly on yoga, and 45 minutes to an hour is usually my go-to. But also throughout the day, I'll go on my walks and take my breaks and get some sunshine and get some fresh air. So walking is always a part of my routine. Like regardless of what kind of exercise I'm also doing that day, I'll also include some kind of walking routine. Saturday is when I focus on my upper body strength training, and then Sunday, I typically use a rest day, but even on my rest day, I am out either walking or hiking with my family. I use this time to repair and recover, but also to spend some time with my family and get outside and enjoy, a day off together. But in the wintertime, what I've done in the past is use my treadmill. So that's obviously super helpful for anybody who is trying to maintain weight loss or lose weight or just be healthy in general. Having any kind of home equipment is highly recommended, especially if you live in a climate like I do, where I have to deal with it being cold the majority of the year, or snowy or icy or just gross outside. I so prefer the warmer weather. But for now, I manage by maintaining my my treadmill exercises and my free weights and such for my strength training. If I absolutely cannot make it to the gym, and if I don't have time for the gym, it's nice to have that substitution in place. So again, sorry to burst the bubble, but there isn't a huge difference between my exercise routine when I was losing the weight and my exercise routine now. I have officially found that happy place where I'm doing those three components. The cardio, you should include 2 to 3 days worth of somewhat moderate to vigorous cardio into your weekly regimen. And then for the strength training, you want to maintain at least 2 separate days of hitting all of those 8 major muscle groups at least once per week. So in order to do that efficiently and effectively, it's likely that you're going to have to split those in between 2 days. You don't want to do it all at once because you really shouldn't have the ability. You should be completely exhausted after completing half those exercises, and then do the other half of your body that you did not do prior later in the week. Typically, it's recommended to get 2 to 3 days of rest in between any strength training routine, but I find that by splitting these days up and maintaining the same day each week, doing upper versus lower body, it's really helpful to give that maximum of a full 7 days or 6 days, whatever, in between sessions. And then finally, stretching and yoga. So this is what I also use for recovery, and it's helpful to do this as much as possible. It doesn't have to be all at once. It can be in separate segments throughout the week. It's always helpful to do a little bit each day, especially before or after workouts. So I hope you found this video helpful. It was actually requested by one of my viewers, so I hope you're watching. And if you have any more questions or are interested in me doing any other types of videos like this, I love talking about exercise, as you can tell. So whatever you feel would be helpful, just let me know and I'll try to include it in these videos. All right, guys, I'll see you in the next one.